the phone, there's no raise hand option on the phone unless you have numeric instructions for us on that. Thanks.
And it's not on my PC either.
Well, you're using the web app, not the.
Well, Mr. Van Gilder, if you have something you want to share, maybe we just start with you.
That'd be great. Yes, thank you. And thank you, gentlemen and ladies, for having this hearing. I think it's critical for us to discuss these issues. First, we live across the street from the home of the Good Shepherd. We live on 15 Rock Rose Way. And we have a question concerning the sidewalks and trails that are on the property of the home of the Good Shepherd, because those trails are not in front of homes and they're not on High Point property. They're on the home of the Good Shepherd property, which is part of the PDD as far as I can tell from the map. That represent about approximately 160 to 170 units. And I don't think those people are represented here. My concern is that piece of sidewalk trail that runs from 14 Rock Rose Way down to the entrance of the home of the Good Shepherd, and the trails that are down from Rock Rose Way past the gazebo to the bocce courts and all over the senior apartments. If this is a discussion concerning the trails at the PDD, then we would like to see consideration for all those seniors that use those sidewalks, and the safety issue. If those were removed and turned to grass, the seniors would not have a place to walk up to Rock Rose Way or along Rock Rose Way. We just picture they would be walking in the road, which is a critical safety issue. Those seniors are on the sidewalks all the time during the months when there is no snow. And we just don't want to see anybody get hurt because they had to walk in the road. The other issue I was going to bring up was that by my count, because I have the PDD map, just under 60% of the homes in High Point have a sidewalk in front of them or across the street from them, and 41% have not got sidewalks. So the majority of the folks do have sidewalks. We enjoy them, and we understand this issue goes beyond the numbers of people, but it is important to note that a lot of people are served by these sidewalks, and we believe that they increase the property value of the neighborhood. And if they were to go back to grass, that we would see a devaluation. And that's the summation of my comments. My biggest concern, of course, is for the seniors and that stretch that isn't necessarily being talked about today.
Thanks, Mr. Van Gilder. I appreciate that. And I have notified the Home of the Good Shepherd and notified them of this public hearing. So they're perfectly aware that the town board is considering this issue tonight. I heard Dean Johnson speak. Is that the next one on the agenda, Jamie?
I guess so. I mean, Stephanie Ferradino raised her hand, but she also emailed me to let people know that if they click on the participants part on the bottom in the box, it'll populate the raise your hand. So I think she was kind of doing it to help out. So if you want to have Dean Johnson speak next, that's fine.
That's a Zoom expert right there.
It's in the chat
All right.
box. You have to open chat or open the right-hand side.
Okay, Dean, are you on? Are you with us?
Yes, Supervisor O'Connor. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, please let us know how you feel about this.
Okay, all right. So first of all, just let me start by saying, for those of us that join the Zoom via phone directly, we won't have the links. And so some of the things that you folks are mentioning won't apply if there's anyone else in that scenario where they couldn't get the PC to work on the Zoom. So that's that. But again, to start off, Honorable Supervisor O'Connor, members of the town board, High Point community, and town residents. As you know, my name's Dean Johnson. I live at 9 Thistle Drive. It's really my privilege to weigh in. It's a very important issue, as Cliff was mentioning, for the future of High Point. And I'd like to cover two separate topics. Supervisor O'Connor, you know, and the other members of the board, that I did submit a 2-page letter to the town, and also tried to distribute that to the HOA members as well. So I won't go over everything on that, but I'd like to talk about two topics that are linked. The first being pedestrian safety, and the second is budgetary constraints. With respect to pedestrian safety, I'd just like to say, you know, as a safety professional with about 20 years experience in safety, aviation, ground, nuclear, weapons safety specialties, I'm responsible to the wing commander at the 109th Airlift Wing for about $900 million in aviation and infrastructure resources, and more importantly, 1,200 members of the 109th Airlift Wing. And I take that job very, very seriously. The job is to preserve and protect material and personal resources. And how I do that is I provide commanders with advisement to make accurate, data-driven decisions so that they can focus the limited resources that they have. Most of those end up being monetary, sort of the same situation we're in here. I would reference my letter for the specifics on the pedestrian safety issue, but as you know, I provided data from the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration. This is data very, very much like the Air Force uses to drive decisions on aviation mishaps. That's the data-driven decision-making that I was referencing. And when you comb over that data, what you find is there is no appreciable difference between mishap rates in a community like High Point with or without sidewalks. The data is available to any community member that would like to reach out to me, or can go online to do that to support my conclusion, and I'm happy to share that. One of the things that I think requires mentioning, and it's a great segue into the second topic, are that the sidewalks in High Point, if properly maintained, do add to the walkability of the neighborhood. Then the question becomes, at what cost? And this is always the balance that we face. When we speak about budgetary constraints, we know that all sidewalks in High Point are past their useful life and need replacement. Asphalt lasts about 15 to 20 years. The replacement costs range between $300,000 to $500,000. Neither the town nor High Point HOA have budgeted for this. And of course, removing the exemption would exacerbate the HOA position, the budgetary position of the HOA. On average, talking numbers, this would mean that if Town Code 139-10 is removed, every home in High Point would need to write a check for approximately $2,600. Asphalt sidewalks last, as I said, 10 to 15 years. So immediately following the $2,600 check, the HOA would need to increase dues by about $250 per home per year to ensure that snow removal costs, maintenance, and replacement costs in another 15 to 20 years are covered. The most recent poll of High Point residents had 67% participation. 100 homes participated out of the 150. 56 voted to remove, 44 to keep. I would ask the board to consider the outcome of this vote, along with the safety data that I provided, and finally, the eye-popping budgetary shortfall as you move closer to a final decision. In sum, I want to thank Supervisor O'Connor and the other members of the board. I also want to thank my High Point community neighbors. Despite this being a highly divisive issue, it's clear to me that we were all on the same team with the goal to preserve and protect the town and neighborhood that we all love and call home. Pending any questions from me, good night.
Thanks very much, Dean. Appreciate that. Jamie, who do we have next?
Lauren Roman.
Lauren, you're on.
this is my first time on Zoom, so bear with me. Can you hear me okay?
Sure.
Okay. So I also
We can.
wrote a letter to Supervisor O'Connell today regarding my stands, my family stands, in support to also what Cliff said. I was reading about public health issues and just making communities more walkable. I've also researched the issue, Health and Human Services.
Okay, I don't know if anybody else, but you're so patchy that I can't make out what you're saying. I don't know if other members can hear.
There you fine.
Is anybody else having issues?
No.
No, I can
Can
hear you.
other board members hear?
Yeah.
I can
hear
hear
fine.
Yeah, I can hear.
So my concern is that it's actually a public health issue. I'm a registered nurse. I have 10 years of experience. I could go read my resume on the safety committees I've been on, but I'm also a mother. And I want our community to be safe. I want our children to be able to ride their bicycle.
All right, hold on. I'm gonna hold, Lauren,
Yes, sir.
can you
Yep.
hold on for a second?
Sure.
Lauren, hold on for a second.
Yep.
Jamie, can you hear her, Jamie?
Yes, yes.
You can hear her. Craig, can you unmute yourself and tell me if you hear her? Craig,
Hear her fine, Darren. You're
can you hear Lauren?
I
Darren,
can,
we can all hear her. It looks like you've got an issue on your end because your screen is frozen as well.
I can't hear anybody. Is it just me?
I'm still here. If people can hear me, it's Lauren Roman.
We can hear you.
Okay.
I heard Dean fine on the phone call. I heard Cliff speak.
Jamie, are you able to help Darren out at all?
We're gonna take a break hold on, everybody. Jamie, could you mute everybody and just have them listen? We're gonna take a break for 1 minute while I switch offices and see if I can get a better connection down in Kevin's office. So I'll be back in a matter of seconds.
Cynthia, did you want to give out any free tax advice here to the listeners?
let's see. I can't think of anything offhand.
No?
I was just thinking that if Dave Meager was here, he'd have a joke at least.
Yeah, I would think.
I guess the tax advice is file early.
Hi, Cynthia. You have Dave's wife instead. I forgot I was muted.
Hi, Dave, or Dave's wife.
He's up there with my children right now who are screaming.
Yeah.
And running.
When I saw Dave Barnett, I thought he didn't look like that last time I saw him.
It was supposed to be my name on here, not his.
I don't know what they're trying to do over there.
Mr. Hartzell, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I have mixed emotions. Our front yard ice rink is starting to melt.
Apologies
for the.
Our side yard, front yard, and backyard ice rink is starting to melt.
You guys got one?
It is all ice.
Apologies for the interruption. For some reason, there's a number of us that cannot get,
Okay,
Zoom.
we
However,
weren't very
are-
successful in Kevin's office, so we're going to go back to this one. Can you hear me, everybody? Jamie, can you hear me? I can hear you.
Yes.
Yes.
Jamie, can you hear me?
Yes, Darren, I can hear you.
Okay. John, can you hear me? John Hartzell?
But your video is frozen. It flits in and out. It's glitching.
Are you using Wi-Fi, Darren, in the
Okay.
meeting room?
Yeah, that's all I can use.
Yeah, I think that might be the issue.
Can I call in from my desk phone?
Yeah, does your desktop in your office have a camera or speakers? You could go in there and log in.
No, it doesn't have a camera.
Okay.
All right, you know what? I'll log in and they just won't see me. I'll log in from the desktop.
Hey, Darren,
And then,
Darren, can't you
but
take
it doesn't have a mic either.
Darren?
Internet, and I put in an Ethernet cable into that.
Yeah. I
Darren,
think so.
Darren, there's a laptop in the credenza on the bottom drawer
Yep.
in the office.
It's not the laptop. I don't think it's the laptop row. I think it's the network.
Okay.
Hey, Darren, it's Steve Gottman. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Steve.
What about just calling in from your phone? We won't get to see your beautiful face, but you can still run the meeting.
Yeah, that's what I was asking Jamie.
Darren,
while
what
Kevin
about
is-
using my setup in the middle of the room? It's got an internet cable going to it, the table in the middle of the meeting room where I sit.
Did you hear what Jamie said?
Yeah.
Or Darren, you can call in on your cell phone for audio.
Right.
Mute your speaker and microphone.
Is that on? Can you hear me better now? We're trying to connect through Ethernet.
It is better, I think, Darren.
We can hear, but you're still frozen.
Okay, can you hear me? Jimmy, if I call in from my cell, is that going to be able to work?
It should be able to.
apologies for the intrusion. Just for the record, there's a number of us that cannot Zoom connect. However, we are on our phones listening to the call. Please let us know when we can address the board at that time.
Followed by pound.
We certainly will, sir.
Enter your part.
Vaughn?
Can anybody hear me through the phone?
Yes, you gotta mute your microphone. We're getting.
Yeah, I'm trying that, Tim.
I muted you.
Okay, can everybody hear me through the phone?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, let's get going then. We were on Lauren. Lauren, you were talking, and I'm sorry to say that I missed almost all of what you were saying. So I don't know if other board members heard it, but maybe if you could give us at least a synopsis of what you were saying.
I just want to quickly recap that I believe this is a public health issue. I dropped a letter off with the town board today addressing the issue. Are you able to hear me before I continue?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So as it being a public health issue and creating a safe, walkable community for everyone, that includes children, that includes the elderly, it's making it accessible even to the community center. Rock Rose Way, especially, I see elderly with their walkers on the sidewalk in the summertime, children riding their bikes and push cars. The community center is such a valuable asset to this community, and it would be great if we could ensure that we could safely walk there without having to be in the road. This is such a walkable community where so many people use the streets to walk. That's great if you're an adult and you're aware of all your surroundings, and I'll be with my kids. But the point is, people speed down Thistle Drive to try to get to Travers Meadows. It's been an issue with the speed, especially in the summertime, that they've set up those speed things that count how fast cars are going. Like, I just don't understand how we could put money and budgets ahead of safety. That's mainly my stance. I could formally go into my letter and how the Surgeon General has strategies that are advocating for safe, walkable communities that includes people with disabilities that need access to sidewalks versus walking in the street. But everyone's welcome to go to the Health and Human Services website for more information. I'm a registered nurse. I care about people in the community. There's so many benefits of having sidewalks. It gets people outside, it's social, it connects the neighborhood. My husband and I are in support of the sidewalks, and we hope that the town also will be behind us.
Okay, thank you very much, Lauren. I appreciate your comments. Jamie, who do we have next?
Almonsberger.
Okay, go ahead.
Yep. Hi, I'm John Almonsberger. First, in the interest of time, I'm just going to say thank you for hosting this. I'm on 34 Bayberry Drive, and have children that do go to the bus stop, although they are a little bit older. So I think really my main point is that to kind of echo the lady before, is that the sidewalks are great from a safety perspective, but I think it's more about the speed of the vehicles that are coming from Travers Meadows trying to get to main routes. And I'm in favor of keeping the sidewalks. However, if for whatever reason we do decide not to move forward with sidewalks, is there a fallback position of consideration, potentially like speed bumps? Because specifically on a couple of roads that connect Travers Meadows, all one needs to do is spend about 15 minutes out front and to see how quickly those cars move up and down the street. And again, with my children being a little bit older, it may not be as much of a concern even a year or two from now. But I would be in favor of keeping the sidewalks for all of my neighbors that have much younger children and future children to come to be able to go safely to a bus stop or walk up and down the street. That's all. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks very much, John. Appreciate your comments. Jamie, who do we have next?
Kelly Winslow.
Kelly, how are you doing?
Good, thank you. So I'm going to keep my comments very brief because I know a lot of folks have already, said some really important, given you some really important information and feedback. But just a couple of things that I want to say. I agree that I think the sidewalks are very important for our community for a number of reasons. I personally use them. However, as an HOA board member, I also recognize the financial impact of having the sidewalks turned over to the HOA. And, at best, we calculated a 30% dues increase, which 56 of the homes have said they don't want or they can't afford. At worst, we have a huge financial impact, a six-figure, replacement project, which we could never afford. So I really ask respectfully that the town board consider, is there another option? Is there a plan B that hasn't been considered that could allow us to keep the sidewalks yet not incur huge financial debt going forward that we just could never pay for and never keep up these sidewalks? So that's my ask of you. So thank you.
Okay, Kelly. So the results of your survey was, as Dean Johnson said, the 5644.
Yes. Yeah. So, and
Okay.
Just one quick thing there. Like for me, I feel like that was very close. Like I still feel like we're still very divided. Like I know, 56 said remove, but I consider that to not be, a runaway majority by any means.
Okay. Thank you, Kelly. Jamie, who's next?
James P, only because I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
James, how you doing?
Poitras, yes. How you doing?
Good.
First off, I had trouble getting on, so I apologize. I missed a couple of the first speakers, which I really wanted to hear everybody have something to say. As Kelly said, I also like having sidewalks in this development, but when it gets to the point as a board member, even a homeowner, the amount of money it's going to take to repair these sidewalks. Now, I understand the town has proposed in the past making Band-Aid repairs to one or two the worst areas, but removing the exemption at that point still leaves defective walkways in other areas, which will fall back on the HOA to find the money, which I don't think we can, to repair. I mean, especially when you use asphalt. Okay, we're talking anywhere from 5 to 6 figures to do repairs. Asphalt lasts maybe 10, 15 years, especially in the Northeast with the heaving of the winter. It's going to crack, they're going to divide. We're going to have to redo this again in 10 and 15 years. HOA doesn't have that kind of money. We never will. And like Kelly said, a lot of people express their concerns with the 56% that they don't want the sidewalks. And I know quite a few people who don't have sidewalks in front of their house actually voted to remove all the sidewalks because they don't want the responsibility coming back on them for sidewalks that they have not in front of their house that they don't even have to maintain. My concern is if the town gave the exemption in 2004, why is it taking this long for them to try and remove the exemption back onto the HOA when in 15, 17 years, no work has ever been done on the sidewalks? And that's why they're in the sad state of condition they're in now, is because HOA didn't own them. Who else owns them? The town. So they were never maintained. Now I feel like the town wants to push the responsibility back on the HOA, which I understand if you got a new development and you got new sidewalks, you maintain that responsibility, going forward. But when we have to take up a responsibility of something that's been in existence for 15 years that we don't own, that's a tough issue for people to comprehend and want to accept the responsibility for. I, like Kelly, I wish there was a third option. I don't know if there is, but I don't know if this can be resolved even tonight. That's all I have right now.
All right. Thanks very much, James. Jamie, who do we have next?
Ryan Whitley.
Ryan, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to speak. I'm going to try to keep my thoughts brief, and they might be a little bit scattered, quite frankly. So I'll try to be quick and to the point here as much as possible. First things first, I did want to cover one of the items that was brought up by Dean at the start of the discussion about this. He had provided some statistics regarding safety. And how this wasn't about, the possibility of, I think his exact words were something along the lines of little Sarah getting mowed down in High Point. Pedestrian safety, quite frankly, is something that's actually quite personal to me. I'm 46 years old. My entire life, I've only broken one bone. And that was when I was 4 years old and I was struck by a car. So this is something that I do take very seriously, especially as the father of 3 young boys myself. I'm not sure, quite frankly, what Dean's points were exactly. I think, quite frankly, that safety for everybody within High Point is of the utmost priority and should be of the utmost priority, not just little Sarah. All age groups, all genders should feel safe walking around our neighborhood. That would be my first point. Not just children, as important as they are. A few people have kind of hinted at it. We basically got 2 options in front of us, and frankly, I'd wonder how many people would have voted for keeping the sidewalks if the possibility of a massive bill wasn't put in front of High Point. We can't just sign a blank check over to the town, say, make whatever fixes you think are necessary, and then we'll foot the bill for the rest. Frankly, the third option, and the option that I would guess most of High Point would go for, would be if the town were to come in, fix all of the sidewalks, and then hand over those sidewalks to the HOA, making for a much more reasonable bill moving forward. Is that a possibility? I don't know, but that would be, quite frankly, the most reasonable expectation I would think going forward at this time. It's been brought up before, the streets in High Point, or the sidewalks in High Point. The streets in High Point that do have sidewalks serve, again, as the main thoroughfare into Travers Meadows. On Bayberry, when I first moved in, there was not that connection there. It was much more calm. Ever since Travers Meadows went in, people zoom up and down. Safety is very much a significant concern. The one possibility that I did want to throw out there, and something maybe perhaps more for the folks on Thistle to consider, in terms maybe a compromise. Thistle is the only street that has sidewalks going up both sides of the street. I would assume it would be something that all could live with if maybe we saved one side of Thistle and then got rid of the other to save a little bit of money. To kind of summarize things, as far as I'm concerned, I would never have moved into the High Point neighborhood if I thought there was a point in time where the sidewalks had the potential of being ripped up. It is a huge, huge plus for us as a community. It does not serve people who only have sidewalks in front of their house, such as I'm fortunate to have. When I go for walks, I don't just walk back and forth in front of my house on my sidewalk. I use it to go into Traverse Meadows. I take my children down the street to the community center. We walk down to the stores, to the Price Chopper Plaza. We need these sidewalks to allow us to connect to each other. People who live on other streets such as Twin Flower, Lupine, even though they don't have sidewalks on their street, a short walk down their less traveled street, they are easily on a street that has sidewalks where there is increased traffic and the increased need for safety. So again, my apologies. I think my arguments maybe weren't laid out in the most cohesive of terms, but I certainly hope I got my point across, and I thank you for your time.
I think you did get your point across, Ryan. Thank you very much. Jamie, who do we have next?
It's listed as David Barnett. It is his wife.
David Barnett's wife, Mrs. Barnett.
He needs to unmute herself.
You're muted.
All right, thank you for allowing me to speak. My husband, I was supposed to be on here, but he signed up as his name, whatever. So anyway, I appreciate you allowing me to speak on behalf of my family and the residents of High Point, at least for the ones that I have, been in contact with. I'm not going to continue, reiterate everything that everybody said, but we have an 18-month-old and a 3-year-old. And when we moved into this neighborhood in 2007, part of the reason we did move here was because it was, a residential neighborhood with sidewalks and trails and playgrounds and all of these things. And while it took us, our children didn't come along until later in life, we use those sidewalks every day. And my 3-year-old, I know a lot of people are parents. And again, I understand the financial concerns and all of that. It bears on our family as well. I just don't know how you put a price tag on a child's life. And the people, ever since they opened up the access road into Traverse Meadows, like everybody's been saying, the traffic flies through here. And we're at 35 Bayberry. We're pretty much across the street from Mr. Allmansberger. And there's a little bit of a hump there, and cars fly over there and you don't see them coming. My dog almost got hit the other day. My husband and my 3-year-old almost got hit not too long ago. And it's because they just, and it's the traffic going to Traverse Meadows. So, when we first moved here, there wasn't an access road. There was just the cul-de-sac, and it was very limited. But everybody's in a hurry these days to do this, that, and the other thing. And I just don't know. Clearly I'm partial because I have children, and there's seniors and everybody else walking around. And it's important. I think the safety in a residential neighborhood comes almost before all else. And I don't know, like Mr. Allmansberger had said, with speed bumps, perhaps is that an alternative? I don't know. I don't know what the cost of that would be. But there's the walkability aspect, closest, proximity to the downtown area. There was talk about, creating, this is on a whole different level, but there's talk of creating a special district for those with sidewalks. And we do not have one directly in front of our home. It's all across the street from us. But I don't know if that's something to explore with the special district and the bond and amortizing that over a certain period of time in terms of tax purposes. And I don't know what the solution is. I don't think we're going to solve it tonight, but there's just a lot of things to consider before making a decision. And I think that, child, people safety or senior safety is at the forefront of all of this, because, I don't know how you put a price tag on that. And I also think with the competing HOA fees in the Traverse Meadows, it would perhaps if you do want to sell your home someday, perhaps it would kind of increase and influence the value of the subdivision and the competitive subdivisions around us. So I think there's a lot of things to consider, and I don't know, that's it. That those are just my feelings on everything. I do speak for my husband in terms of this, and I hope that you will consider it. I greatly appreciate you listening and taking the time. I'm sorry, I'm exhausted from taking care of the 18-month-old and 3-year-old all day. But I do appreciate you affording me the time and the opportunity to sit here and speak with you and to say what I had to say. And, I do hope that all aspects are considered. And, I do understand the financial responsibility that it would, bear on each homeowner within High Point. And it is a big deal. I think if we do not, with the two options we're given right now, I think there needs to be, as John Albensberger had said, there needs to be another option, whether it's a speed bump or, the slow traffic signs and your speed limit signs, those don't necessarily work. But when your dog almost gets hit and your child almost gets hit while she's walking and actually being held by your husband, it's a big deal because people don't slow down. So that's what I have to say. And I appreciate you taking the time to listen.
Gotcha. Thank you very much, Ms. Barnett. We appreciate your comments. Jamie, who do we have next?
Anthony Pino.
Who?
Anthony
Hi.
Pino, Pino.
Hi, Tony Pino on 46
Anthony, how are you
Bayberry
doing?
Drive. Good, thank you. Just to reinforce a few points, I did send an email earlier today. Hopefully you had an opportunity to read it. I'll summarize to this. I've been here since the start of development, been here 21 years coming in October. And these sidewalks or walking trails have been a point of angst and concern for many of us, especially those original residents here. When we accepted the trails and the entire infrastructure and assets from the supplier, we had concerns then. No one was able to assist us or was willing to address those concerns about the condition of the walks as we accepted them, and never got clear answers until recently when various generations of the board pressed the town to take acceptance and then take control of the walks. We now have a change in course and direction. It is where we are today. This is, I see this as a financial problem, not a people problem, and consistent approach and standards. The power of the PPD for you as a town, right, is to leverage the capital of the builders and the developers, leverage their capital, leverage their buying power to build the infrastructure and the assets in place. Well, we were on a different standard. We were probably one of the first early developments next to Luther Forest to press, a stabilized design and co-connectivity across Malta. And for whatever reason, it's not what you want it to be today. It's unfair to burden the residents of this development to deal with the shortfalls of the current design. There are multiple issues with the design, asphalt being the first one of them. Unless we go to concrete with this problem, will be a continual thorn in the residents' side in perpetuity. The location and design of the walks are a challenge. They're too close to the road in certain circumstances. In the wintertime, it'll be impossible to keep them clear because the town, rightfully so, needs to push back the banks, and there's no way we'll be able to keep them clear after every single pushback. You're doubling our seasonal fees from that perspective. The only real approach here is really we need an investment from the town to make it right if you're going to continue with the walks. That's the only way I see through this problem. Lifting the amount, now you're moving into more of a Luther Forest type of approach, where only the outside streets or the main thoroughfares are sidewalks, and the remaining infrastructure is not sidewalks. So will be probably no different than Luther Forest at this point in time. I'm not sure if there's any other developments that are in our standard, but there are, like Luther Forest, do not have walks throughout the entire development community. So if you're forcing us to comply with your new standard, I ask for equality and that all developments, regardless of size, like Laurel Lane, take your favorite location or sub build out that's been happening over the last 20, 30 years, and you must apply the same standard to all of them. Thank you for your time. If any of you have any direct questions for me, you have my cell number. Please feel free to give me a call.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Appreciate your comments. Jamie, who do we have next?
Jim P. just raised his hand again.
Okay,
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what everybody said. I just wanted to address the issue of speeding. That has been an issue since they opened up Travers Meadows on both sides of the development. I happen to live on Thistle, and a couple times over the last 10 years, we've had the speed limit sign placed in front of my house, which is halfway between Rock Rose and Basswood going into Travers Meadows. And speed limits are upwards of 45, 50 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. I requested the town about 15 years ago to place speed limit signs in front of my house on the corner of Twin Flower and Thistle, which is halfway down. I believe that would help slow down the traffic if these sidewalks were to come out. And even if they don't, I think they should still be put in. Issue with Rock Rose, that's a long stretch of road. People go flying down that road. They go from Bayberry all the way over to Thistle. I mean, they're doing 45, 50 miles an hour. Put another three-way stop right there at Twin Flower and Rock Rose. It's not going to be popular with people who live here, but it's a safety for the kids. Bayberry, we'd have to look at what can be done over there because it's pretty much a straight shot. But I do believe there's other safety issues we can look at to protect everybody in the neighborhood if these sidewalks were to come out. I thank you for letting me speak again.
James, thank you very much. Jamie?
Aaron, there's some folks, I know at least one person on a phone line that wants to address the board.
Who is that, John?
It's Mr. Moser. I believe he's still on.
Okay, Mr. Moser, you said?
That's right.
Mr. Moser, are you still on?
I don't know his phone number. Is he?
Yes. Hello?
Okay, let's, Mr. Moser, you're on.
Yes, thank you. Having been here for 17 years, we bought a neighborhood with sidewalks. It's not our fault as homeowners that the town, and I know it wasn't you folks that were there, but it's still the town's responsibility. The town chose to allow the builder to put subpar sidewalks in. If they were going to use blacktop as their sidewalks, they should have built them the same way they built the road with some sort of underlayment. They didn't do that. We have the heaving because of the town allowing them to get away with it cheaper instead of doing it properly. This cost should not be on us. The town allowed this to happen. The town is culpable, and the town should talk to Marini, not be talking to us about the sidewalks. The sidewalks need to be repaired. They were in this neighborhood to begin with. This is what we bought, and we expect that to happen. It's not our cost. Now, as far as maintenance goes, I generally snow blow my own sidewalk during the winter. Most of us do, I would say, on Thistle. It's not as if it doesn't get done, but it still needs to be taken care of. We can take care of it on an individual basis, but the actual sidewalks are the town's responsibility. You chose to allow somebody to put something in subpar. You should have been, at the very least, if you're going to do blacktop, again, as a road would be put in with underlayment, but they should have been concrete. Now that didn't happen, that should not be passed on to us. That should be the town's responsibility. I do agree that maybe there are sections of sidewalk, like on Thistle, where you have on both sides of the street, maybe you do take it out on one side, leave it in on the other to absorb some of the cost. But the sidewalks should be here. They will also have a negative effect on the property values of the house. So are you going to turn around in the town and drop our taxes because we don't have sidewalk? Because if you're taking something away from us, then you need to make it up somewhere else too. So the way I look at this, the town is the one who's culpable. Marini's culpable. You need to talk to Marini. The town and Marini need to work something out, not be coming to us as the homeowners and saying, hey, this is on you. And as far as stop signs go, I do agree with Jim. The stop signs should be installed. I know the town highway supervisor said that you guys don't use stop signs for controlling traffic, and that's a bunch of BS, because if I drive through Round Lake right now, you guys added three more stop signs because they all complained about the traffic coming through Round Lake. So that needs to happen. No matter what, the stop signs can be installed. The stop signs are a device to control traffic. So they should be installed immediately to solve this. I walk at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I've almost been hit multiple times with people coming around the streets very quickly. First thing in the morning, I get a lot of contractors running up Thistle. I've had a few of them that I've actually pulled my car out and made them stop because they were driving too fast. So there is problems here, and the town needs to address it. Now, I know you can't control how people are driving unless you put a stop sign in, but that needs to happen. The sidewalks, as far as I'm concerned, the town is the one who's responsible. You allowed subpar in, so now you have to take care of the subpar product. I used to be on the board here early on in the early 2000s with High Point, and this has been an ongoing issue, and the town really has to step up at this time, make good on a problem that they had. They realized it was a mistake and fixed it with every other neighborhood that went in, including the Marini neighborhood over in Round Lake. You fixed it there. You should have had them come back and fix it here, or you need to step up and fix it. But it's not our responsibility, and nor is it our cost. And by taking it away, then I would expect at least a 25% decrease in my taxes because I don't have a sidewalk any longer. And that's where I stand on this. And I think the residents of High Point, if the town does not step up, then we should make a lawsuit against the town and go set up a class action suit against the town for doing this because the town is culpable. They allowed subpar product in. And at that point, we need to stand up and push back on the town. And that's what I have for today.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moser. Jamie, who's next?
I don't see any more hands raised, but like John said, I don't know if there's someone on the phone who wants to speak.
Okay, I'm gonna take a moment here. So anyone on the phone who wants to speak, please speak up and we'll try to recognize you. Okay, I'm not hearing anybody. Does anybody else on the town board hear anybody on the phone? Jamie, do you hear anybody?
No, I don't.
Okay, here's what I'd like to do. Obviously, we've had some technical problems tonight, so I hate to close the public hearing in its entirety. What I'd like to do is close the public hearing for public oral comment. I would like to leave it open for written comment only until the earlier of when the town board acts on this question by passing a resolution, or March 29th, which is the next town board hearing. So unless there's an objection from anybody on the town board, we will close the public hearing for oral comment. We will leave it open for the purposes of written comment only, pending the earlier of town board action on this question or March 29th, whichever is earlier.
I think that's reasonable.
Okay.
Do folks know when the earlier is? You're saying the earlier of town board action.
Yeah, the earlier would only be tonight, John. I mean, it'd be tonight. So if the board, what I'm going to recommend is that the board postpone or table the two motions pending, the two resolutions pending, which have to be considered in together, and just postpone them pending, March 29th, so that we could take the rest of the written comment. That's what I plan to do. So it's just.
Okay, I'm supportive of that. Just so folks are clear, they'll have until the 29th to submit.
If the rest of the town board is comfortable with postponing these two resolutions to March 29th, then that's what we'll do.
I certainly am.
And I am too, and I'm hoping that we'll get more input from other residents of High Point.
Okay, so that's what we'll do. The town board is this public hearing remains open for the purposes of written comment only, pending March 29th, when we'll put this back on the calendar. Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate everyone coming and sharing your comments with the board. And please, if you would like, send more written comment to the board, either to me personally or to Jen Holmes. You know how to reach us. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the public hearing that was kept open on the Hearn Road matter. And what I'm going to do now is close that public hearing. It was kept open for the purposes of written comment only. So I will close that public hearing right now at 6:58 p.m. And we will consider all the written comment that we've received on it, and we have received some. Okay, so we're going to start our agenda meeting, and so I would ask everyone to rise with a salute to the flag and a silent prayer. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. The first item on the agenda is announcements or reports from town board members. Would anybody on the town board wish to address the people at this meeting?
Yeah, Darren, I have a couple things I just want to share. First of all, many of you may have seen this go live today, our new Malta Works 2021 promotion. This is a great new initiative that has been put together by our friends at Saratoga County Prosperity Partnership and the Saratoga County Chamber in conjunction with our Economic Development Committee. We started working back in the fourth quarter of 2020, thinking about how we could potentially put some plans together to promote our local independent businesses here in Malta. And obviously we have the great promotional vehicle of Malta Works. Well, Prosperity Partnership applied for a grant from the Global Foundries Town of Malta Foundation and secured that grant. So this cool program went live today, and between March 1st and May 2nd, you'll be able to go and shop in a Malta business, a small independent-owned Malta business or restaurant, get takeout, anything like that. Take a picture, as long as you spend $20.21, take a picture of that receipt and email it to info@saratoga.org. And you get entered to win. There's weekly drawings for gift cards from Malta businesses. You can win either a $100 or a $50 gift card from local businesses here in Malta. And then at the end of the whole promotion, anyone that submitted a receipt for consideration goes into a grand prize drawing for a $500 gift card from the Malta business of their choosing. So the goal here is sort of multi-tiered. Is one, we're going to be encouraging people to shop local here in the town of Malta over these next 2 months and spend money in our local businesses, but we'll also actively be putting revenue into the pockets of those local businesses through a variety of gift cards and the like. With that, Prosperity Partnership will be running promoted content on social media, on Facebook, to promote this effort to folks to come spend money in the town of Malta. I believe the promoted ads went live today and have already reached about just under 4,000 impressions. And that's reaching people within a 25-mile radius of the town of Malta. So really, really cool, innovative way that we're going to be able to help some of our small local businesses here in the town of Malta with using some resources provided by Global Foundries. And then the second one, we should have an announcement coming later this week on the Malta Give to Dine program. Thanks to Dave Rosenberg on the Malta Economic Development Committee and his hard work in rounding up some local businesses to support this initiative. We're expecting to have a pretty exciting announcement about some additional donations that should be able to carry that program through the end of March. And for a reminder for those of you who don't remember, and I know Darren and Cynthia joined me for a couple of distributions. The Malta Give to Dine program is a place where folks can donate $25 and that will buy a meal for a family of 4 in need. So that'll feed a family of 4. No questions asked, and come and pick up that free meal from our friends at Nanola. And today over 1,000 people have been served. We've raised over $8,500 in private funds thus far through a variety of individual and private donors, corporate donors, and should be making an announcement here in the next couple of days, rounding that out to be able to carry it through the end of March. So some pretty exciting stuff.
Tim, is that program still going on?
It is. It's gonna that'll be the announcement later this week, is that's gonna run through the end of March. So okay. March 31st, the distributions happen on Wednesdays at 4 o'clock. And on average, we get about 30 people a week that come in. And so the 31st of March is the last Wednesday in March. So there should be funds anticipating right now, based on the funds that have been made available and the other private donations that have been made, that program will be able to remain active in feeding those in need through the end of March. One of the things I'm going to try to do is I'm going to be working with Alyssa and trying to get some resources from her so that we can get things in hands of folks that come to pick up, that when the program ends, here are places you can go if you still have food insecurity, whether it's, the Town of Malta Emergency Food Pantry or other resources in the community, because we've definitely seen a lot of folks in need. Many of these folks are coming back week after week and certainly relying upon this. So thank you to anyone who's already given, and we should have some exciting stuff coming later this week on that.
Okay, thanks very much, Tim. Any other board members?
Just, I saw the highway department is reporting that they're out with requests for proposals or requests for bids on the annual bulk waste.
Can't hear you, John.
Can everyone else hear me okay?
I can hear you now. You were kind of fading out.
Yeah, okay. Just to note that the highway department's out with an RFP or bids for the bulk waste collection day that was done successfully last year at Town Hall. Spring will be here soon, and we'll be running that program again. I think it was, very successful next year, and hope that folks will that do have stuff that didn't get picked up last year will have the opportunity to come down and get their stuff taken care of.
Thanks, John. Other town board members? Cynthia or Craig, or how about Mark?
Darren, the only thing that I have, I'd just like to give a shout out to the Malta Stillwater Ambulance and thank them for getting out and doing vaccinations for our homebound seniors. That's been awesome. It's been very well received, and it worked out great. It's so great, as a matter of fact, that many counties within the state now are using our area as a model to do the same thing. And I know there's been, I think, like a dozen ambulance corps have gotten out and done this throughout the county. But I'd like to thank our very own Malta Stillwater for getting out there and doing that. I think they've done at least 20 or 30 at the last I've read, and they're going to get out there and do even more. So I just want to give a thank you out to those folks.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I think it was last weekend when EMS went out with the second doses for the people who were hit on the first dose. So, yep, I second that note of thanks. Anyone else? Okay, department heads, we had your monthly reports, but does anyone need to add anything to those monthly reports? Any department heads? Okay, I think they were very well written and self-explanatory. Next, comments or questions from town residents on any matter you'd like to address to the board. Jamie, maybe you can let us know if anyone Kathy Eisman, I see her hand up. Kathy. You're probably muted, Kathy.
I am muted. Now I'm off. Okay. Yes. Thank you again, Darren, for coordinating those shots to our seniors. We did have 30 seniors homebound that got their second doses on Saturday, and they are so thankful for that process. So we're still working on getting shots for some of our seniors with the pharmacies opening up. It's getting a bit easier. So glad to hear that. We did have a luncheon today off-site. We had 68 seniors in two settings. One was 28 people, and the second seating was 40 people. And it was just so good to see these seniors being able to get together and visit. And so thank you again for all your support with that. We're exercising, we're staying active, we have meetings, we have bingo, and that's about it. We did have 8 new members again this month.
Wow. I'm sorry I didn't have luncheon today, Kathy.
We missed you, Cynthia.
I've just been kind of slamming busy these days, so
I get
I won't miss
get
the
it.
next one, I promise.
Okay. Yep.
Thanks,
Welcome you all.
Kathy. And since we're on that general subject of the seniors with the vaccine, I just note that the county is hopefully going to implement an initiative this week, I hope, where they'll setting up a phone bank to answer questions from seniors and other people who are eligible for the vaccine to try to help them, get through this sometimes difficult registration process. So I think we're getting there, and we have some more work to do on the county level. We have our Commissioner of Health is, I think, doing a fabulous job, working very hard. So we'll work on that. And we're also going to work on getting all of our seniors onto the county-wide interest list. So Peter Klotz, I see your hand is up.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate the recognition to the ambulance corps. The ambulance corps will continue to do as much as we can as we have supplies and as we have vaccine available. Reminder that people should contact the county, not the ambulance corps, to arrange to get on that list.
Thank you, Peter. Absolutely. And it's on the county website. It's fairly easy to reach. I know that some people are not, either don't have internet access or aren't comfortable, so we'll definitely try to help you with that. Thank you, Peter. Jamie, who else do we have, if anyone?
No one at this time.
Okay, we'll give them a moment just in case the people calling in would like to be heard. Okay, not hearing anyone. We'll move to the next item, and that's the minutes of the February 22nd meeting. Do we have a motion to accept those minutes?
I'll move.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Okay, we'll move on to old business. The first two items on the agenda are A and B, relate to High Point. And I think as the board previously kind of, the sense of the board was to postpone those resolutions until March 29th, when the written comment on the public hearing will conclude. And then the board will consider those additional comments as well as the ones we heard tonight, and probably schedule the matter for action on April 5th. So there being no objections to those, we'll postpone those unless anyone has an objection on the board.
Do you need a formal motion to table the resolutions?
I don't think so, because there hasn't been a motion to accept them. So I don't know, unless Steve, are we good without a motion?
You're good without a motion, but there's no harm in it.
Okay, then do we have a
I would
motion?
move that we table these two resolutions pertaining to sidewalks in High Point.
Do we have a second?
Second.
I'm willing to second it, but I'm not sure that's necessary. We can just remove them from the agenda. Can't we?
Okay, but whatever, the motion to table has been made and seconded. There's no debate on a motion to table. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The next item on the agenda is the Hearn Road rezoning. The board has dealt with that, a few times, many times, actually. There is the public hearing on it had been concluded earlier tonight. There is another possible way to approach this issue, and it's been circulated to the board. And so the proposition is to have another public hearing for this altered method, and to have that public hearing on March 29th, I believe. So we would need a motion to put that resolution on for March 29th.
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
I want to ask a question about it. So now we're going to have a public hearing on two different options. Then when we make a decision, will we be able to actually select between those two options, or of course not select either option? We can say no to any of them. But I believe I guess the question is, the prior public hearing is still valid, even if we have another public hearing for another. Am I correct?
I believe that's correct, Cynthia. That was certainly what I had intended. And so, the public hearing on the diagonal line has been concluded, but it's out there and the board hasn't acted on it yet. That proposal is still out there. So in my view, the board could adopt that if it wants to on March 29th or April 5th. But this other one, there'll be a public hearing on March 29th, and the board can act on that too. So Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think both of those options would be available for the town board.
I think both the options are available to the town board, where we stand right now.
We
Could
do
I-
have one for
question,
the
please?
R8.
That was either the motion was not made or I think it was made, but either it wasn't seconded or it wasn't passed. So that was also out there, but it's no longer pending.
Okay, just trying to keep all the plans, so.
Okay, John, I know you had a comment.
Well, we never concluded the seeker review on the last local law proposal. Is the intention to go forward and complete that seeker review?
I hear you, John.
We did not complete the seeker review on the last local law proposal. Is the intention to complete that or to start another seeker review on the proposal that's presented to us tonight?
I think there would, obviously we'll take Steve's and Leah's advice on this. I think the secret review certainly on the second one has to be, conducted and on the first one concluded, if that's still in the board's, consideration.
Okay. Well, folks know my thoughts here. I would just, point out that if you look at the parcels on Malta Ridge in this section of Route 9, there is nothing that comes close to approaching the size of this development parcel that's being proposed here this evening, which is somewhere between 12 and 13 acres. Most of the parcels that are in this area along Route 9 are in the range of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 acres, and the largest one is 8. I just do not see any justification for going forward and authorizing 12 acres of commercial development in probably the worst location in this section of Route 9 from a traffic standpoint.
I agree with that, John, also. Very concerning to me.
Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the Maltaville Water Assistant Grant application. I think we have one, right, Kevin?
Yes.
Okay, we have one for a grant amount of $152.37. Do we have a motion to accept that resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, new business. The next item on the agenda is to authorize the execution of the Malta Meadows Apartments pilot amendment. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next item on the agenda is to amend the 2021 wage and salary schedule.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Okay, I'll just mention briefly that during budget negotiations, the town board bit the bullet and did what it had to do and reduced the budget to accommodate the COVID crisis. We were hopeful at that time that the scenario wouldn't be quite as negative as we prepared for. Now it appears that the financial scenario facing the town, although it's tough, is not quite as bad, and we believe that it's appropriate to restore the cuts that were made in employee salaries retroactive to January 1st. So that is what this resolution would do. Any other discussion on this motion?
I just want to say that I'm very happy that we're able to do this. We have a lot of hardworking people that work for us, and they went without this year, and to be able to provide this and to provide it retroactively I'm quite pleased. So thank you, Darren, for proposing it, and I wholeheartedly support it.
Darren, just a question and point of clarification. I know we had an awful lot on the plate of our planning board, or our planning and building department lately. Do we have unfilled positions there that we might be able to be considering here to help lighten the load for Jamie and her team? Or unfunded positions that we perhaps can consider?
We have an unfunded position that we used to have in there, Tim. I don't know that it's in the budget, so I think it's unfunded at this point.
We know what the budget line was. Was that the junior planner position?
Yeah, I think it was the planner position, right? The junior planner, right?
Kevin on the line that he can answer the question about.
Yeah, he is.
whether-
I'm looking at him, and that's what he said.
Well, Jamie's also on the line, and she can tell you more specifically about her department's needs and what the budget was, because I think there was, I believe at one point, a planner. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there was a part-time code enforcement officer.
Yes, and a intern I had also put in there.
But I suggest that we take this up at, it may well be an appropriate topic for conversation, but it's kind of being introduced, in the middle of a unrelated item. I'm happy to learn about it and to talk about it. But we're in the new business, portion of our agenda, and we have these 5 items. And I have no information on this, and it sounds like we need some more background.
Well, that's sort of why I was asking. We're talking about the wage and salary schedule and positions that we had to take away, and funding that we had to take away in anticipation of some budget challenges. And I just wanted, to ask what our situation is there and what potential needs may exist so that we can be properly informed going forward. So, Jamie, what, if anything, what needs are currently existing there?
Well, I mean, we definitely could use all of the positions that were, stripped. I mean, planner first and foremost, and a part-time code enforcement officer, especially if we move forward with Scannell, and the future of LFTC there. So it's definitely consideration, but I understand that it was not in the budget. And, if there's some hope that it could be put in for 2022, I'm willing to accept that.
Could I ask Darren, Jamie, and Kevin to just powwow on that and see if there are needs that our budget would allow, or if there are, I'm just very concerned with the volume of projects that we have coming through, and Jamie and her team have been doing a tremendous job, but we've got probably a greater volume of projects right now in front of them than we have in the last 5 years. And I don't want them killing themselves if we can help them out in some way.
As far as I'm concerned, this is a budget issue, and I'm happy to talk about it as part of the annual budget process. But in the month of March, we've only had 2 months of the budget we just adopted under our belt, and frankly, this town has undergone a lot of construction over the last 5-6 years. I'm going to be very hesitant, 2 months into the year to create positions, positions that weren't budgeted for 2021.
Well, I don't disagree with you, John, but we did have a consensus that we would come back and look in May.
Not on new positions, we didn't. On salary.
Let me finish. We had a consensus that we would come back and look at what our needs were mid-year, and I'm simply asking for a department head that we know that has a lot on their plate, and our comptroller and our supervisor to just look at it, and if there's something to consider, then we can consider it. If there's not, then we don't. I don't think there's any harm in doing a little bit of homework and making sure that we're doing what we can for our staff.
Well, my concern is taking one department out of context. There wasn't a consensus that in March we were going to revisit staffing in the planning department. If other board members, if the majority of the board wants to do that, of course it's their prerogative. But to suggest that somehow going into a staffing evaluation for the planning department was all agreed to by the town board at this point in the year, that's not accurate.
Well, then to my colleagues then, do we want to wait until budget, or is there anything worth considering here?
Well, I mean, in our monthly staff meetings, we're always, looking at workloads, capabilities, trying to predict a little bit down the line to see what the story is. So, I mean, we'll certainly continue that process. And, if we come to a crisis or something like that, then yeah, I mean, we can bring it up to the town board, in advance of budget negotiations. But, in the absence of a crisis facing Jamie or any other department, then, it might not be necessary for the board. So we'll definitely, keep it in mind as we move forward with our staff meetings.
Yeah, I don't know that it's something we can decide tonight, but also, as I recall, those positions were unfilled for the whole year because you couldn't find, there aren't a lot of planners out there,
Right.
that work or code enforcement. So some in the future, if we find we go through with this canal thing and they're so bogged down, they can't keep their heads above water, then definitely I think it's something we can talk about.
Okay, any other discussion on this motion? To amend the 2021 wage and salary schedule? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And I'd ask the department heads to please notify your staff of this action by the town board. So hopefully it will be met well by them. I think we can be pretty confident of that. Okay, next item on the agenda is to acknowledge the Rogers hiring of 2 individuals, William Priest and Shane Quackenbush, as heavy equipment operators. And this resolution would acknowledge that and set their pay rate.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thanks very much and welcome, Shane and William. Hope you have a long, long stay with the town of Malta. Next item is a resolution to place a maximum cap on commercial building permit fees. Do we have a motion to accept that resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Add, please.
Sure, John.
So I'm kind of hamstrung by my, by being old and around a long time and being a lawyer. And over the years, I've looked at the issue of government fees. And as Darren knows, and I think it's been mentioned, our fees like this are supposed to have some kind of at least rough proportionality to what our actual costs are. These fees aren't supposed to be a way to, indirectly tax the citizenry or businesses of the town. They have to have, some kind of nexus to the expense the government incurs to conduct its related activity. And I certainly can understand with larger size construction projects that they're the construction inspection effort and expense isn't directly proportional to the square footage of the project, that there's circumstances under which there's some kind of a curve as the project grows. The construction inspection doesn't grow at the same rate. So, and I also agree with the notion that we shouldn't, to that end, we shouldn't be profiteering on large construction projects because our fees are not really reflective of our cost to do the inspections. I certainly agree with that concept. My thoughts are not with respect to the objective, but with respect to the solution. I think just arbitrarily pulling a number out of the air and putting it on there is not the best we can do. As folks know from earlier today, contacted the town of Wilton, who's the only town in this county that's had experience with projects, the magnitude that are being considered here in Malta, the large warehouse and distribution centers. And their code provides for the applicant to approach the town board to request some kind of specific fee be set for their particular project. And that certainly is a strikes me as a fairer way to approach this concern. Likewise, the town of Half Moon has a formula where that size and construction inspection effort are taken into account in a formula so that it's fair. Not only at the extreme ends where there's an extremely large project, but all the way up the scale for smaller projects as well. So I am supportive of improved fairness in our construction inspection fees, avoiding excess fees, but I don't think setting a cap of 250,000 is the best we can do on it. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Anyone else?
I want to ask a question, basically with respect to Scanal. So that is a phased approach or phased project, and we're talking about capping the building permit fee to $250,000. Is that $250,000 for the entire project, or is it $250,000 per building permit?
And my understanding, Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong, is it's, per building permit. I mean, this project could go along for years, so it has to do with the individual building. Am I right, Jamie?
Correct.
Per building.
And Craig, did you want to talk?
It's $250,000 per structure?
Yeah, per permit. And, just my, I think John makes good points about, having to take a look at this. It's difficult. We were trying to piece together the Half Moon formula today and figuring out what the construction factors were, et cetera. And we looked at some other, ideas relevant to this. So yes, I certainly think it merits additional discussion. But I don't think that should prevent the board from putting this cap on it right now. So that's why I support the motion.
Yeah, I agree with you, Darren, and John, I agree with your sentiment as well. I 250 may not be the right number, and I think if we could get to the point where we have a formulaic driven approach, I think that would be very healthy. I'm concerned about doing sort of project by project. I think that opens the door to some tricky situations, and something like what we just saw with High Point, where a specific deal was cut on one specific project, and it doesn't really necessarily align to the long-term interests. So I think I agree with everything Darren said there, and while I support this resolution, I would love to dig in further and find a way to improve it going forward and get something that's more formulaic and predictable for applicants, but also fair for the town.
Well, we know how to do that. It's been done for a while down in Half Moon, and that's what I suggest we do. On the Wilton situation, again, we're constrained by the law, which is the inspection fee has to have some kind of rough proportionality to the effort. And I think that's the notion in Wilton, was that it allowed them to stop and take a more focused view of the particular project and to look realistically at what the construction inspection expense would be and to set the fee accordingly. So those are my thoughts.
Okay, understood. And yeah, we're certainly not in danger of violating any kind of prescription on the setting of the fees by putting a cap on it. I mean, we're not raising anything. So, that isn't an immediate problem with passing this cap as I see it.
I hope that nobody intimates from, this, if it's approved, that the Scannell project, has, tacitly been accepted by the town board. I just think we should make that clear.
All right, I agree, John, because
that seems to be the focus of this discussion, is to avoid, an excess fee on Scannell, and we don't even know if Scannell is going to be approved by this board.
Right.
Well, that's true, and as everybody knows, we have a
Yeah.
workshop scheduled a week from tonight on that very issue. So no, that certainly hasn't been decided yet.
And to be fair, this conversation started, a year and a half before Scannell even showed up in Malta. So it's certainly not focused just on that project.
Any other discussion on this motion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, next item is budget transfers. Kevin, how are we doing on budget transfers?
There were, in essence, two budget transfers. One was to provide for additional court aid that we got in from New York State Court as a result of the Justice Court writing a grant application. Thank you, Sandy Crandall. And also the second portion of the budget transfers relates to the acquisition of the potential acquisition of the right-of-way for the Old Post Road improvement project. There's a right-of-way that's needed to complete the project, and we have to set aside the money to do that.
Okay, do we have a motion to accept the budget transfers?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, other business. Do we have any other business that the town board should deal with tonight? Okay, any further comments by town residents that you'd like to make to the town board on any subject whatsoever? Anybody's hand up or anybody on the phone want to be
No.
heard? Jamie, do you hear anybody?
Nope, I don't.
One question, Darren, if I could. And I don't know if it's premature for Alyssa, but are there any thoughts about, beg your pardon? Our summer programming, has Alyssa started to think about what level of programming we're going to be able to provide this summer for the town's kids?
So our full day Camp Malta registration is open. We're planning to have 55 kids this year. Summer rec, the half day camp registration for Malta residents will open April 12th. I'm waiting on, hoping that state guidelines will come out before then. So I can kind of, work on the numbers, but if they don't come out, I'm going to base it on the numbers, the pods that you have to have from last year's guidelines. So.
You've heard nothing about those being loosened up so you could grow the size above 55?
Well, Camp Malta is always 55 in
Is
just
55? Okay.
non-pandemic time. I'm hoping that the guidelines that do come out, Cuomo did announce that guidelines are coming eventually. So I'm assuming that the pod size will be hopefully increased a little bit. Right now it's 15 kids, so.
Thanks.
Was it 10 last year?
It started out as 10 and then like a month into summer camp, it went up to 15.
Okay, well, let's hope.
All righty, thanks, Alyssa. Anything else? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So
We adjourn.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thanks, everybody. Thank you
Thank
for
you,
coming.
everyone.
Have a great week. We'll see you on the 20th.